Listen guys, let's not hide behind the truth here. Professional golf was already broken from the inside. Secret deals, quiet wars, and everyone pretending the game was still honest. Then Bryson DeChambeau said something that shocked the golf world to its core, and had the biggest power players losing their absolute minds. This wasn't about his powerful swing or some new training method. We're talking about something way bigger. This was him calling out the organization that everyone knows runs everything, and can destroy careers in seconds. But that didn't stop the fearless Bryson DeChambeau from stepping up like he always does, and fighting back against the untouchables.
So it was a business decision, first and foremost, and that's all there was to it. It's given me a lot more opportunity outside of the game of golf, and giving me more time with my family and my future family.
If you love behind-the-scenes drama and untold golf stories, hit that subscribe button for On the Green channel, and we'll bring you the exclusive details every week. So let's break down exactly what happened. Bryson DeChambeau didn't just stir up some controversy. He basically walked into golf's most protected boardroom and called everyone corrupt to their faces. Yep, that's exactly what happened. He stood up and essentially declared the entire establishment was corrupt, forcing fans and players to choose sides whether they wanted to or not. The impact from his statement is still creating waves throughout the sport, and insiders are suggesting that the 2025 Ryder Cup could be completely turned on its head before anyone even tees off. This is raw defiance, pure legacy building, and a dangerous confrontation that might reshape golf's entire future.
So we decided to go down to Trump Bedminster, Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey this weekend to learn more about it. Now, we showed you part of our visit last night. We had a conversation with the new commissioner of LIV Golf, Greg Norman, one of the greatest players in the world. But we wanted to know what the players who are participating in LIV Golf think of this, and why'd they leave the PGA anyway? Why would anyone leave the PGA? Well, Bryson DeChambeau is one of the best golfers in the world, played at SMU. He's one of the longest drivers in the history of the sport. He's now playing for LIV.
Look, to really grasp how massive this explosion was, you need to understand the dead silence that came right before the storm hit. Let me paint you a picture. It's May 2024, and the golf world is sitting in this incredibly tense quiet that felt like a bomb waiting to go off at any moment. Think about this. Almost a full year had gone by since that earth-shattering Tuesday when the PGA Tour and the Saudi Public Investment Fund, the same financial giant bankrolling live golf, announced their so-called peace treaty. That bombshell was supposed to end all the lawsuits, stop the public feuding, and finally bring some calm to a sport that was tearing itself apart. But here's what actually happened instead of that promised harmony. This bizarre, unstable ceasefire, where absolutely nobody trusted anyone and everyone was just pretending the next war wasn't inevitable. The fighting had paused, sure, but both camps were still hiding in their bunkers, eyeing each other with that ice-cold suspicion that never really goes away. The PGA Tour kept grinding through tournament after tournament, but always with this massive question mark hanging over everything. This potential merger that nobody actually believed would work out.
You want a major now, I think it's $3 million. I hate the fact that people had judgment on our guys going to the LIV. You're born, you live, and you die. If somebody offers me $150 million, that's taking care of my family. That's what you're born for. To make money, if you have a family, to take care of them, right? Not saying the PGA Tour would do that. They do it, but not on a one-time basis to only play 14 events. You get $150 million to play the LIV Tour for 4 years on these contracts?
Oh, man.
I'm sorry, I have to do it.
Meanwhile, LIV Golf was running its own wild events. Players were making insane money, but they were still being treated like outsiders, stuck just outside golf's traditional world. They were like people hanging around a party they couldn't get into. And right into this mess stepped a guy who'd completely changed himself. Bryson DeChambeau wasn't that weird, overly technical, socially awkward dude that people made fun of during his PGA days anymore. The guy who used to talk like a textbook and push everyone away with his intense focus had totally flipped his whole thing on LIV, turning into something sharper, louder, and way more unpredictable. He'd finally found a place that actually let him be himself. A platform that pumped up his personality, instead of trying to tone it down. As captain of Crushers GC, he turned into this loud, confident leader, smiling with fans, talking trash, and moving like someone who'd just broken every chain holding him back. His voice hit different now, carrying real weight, real confidence, real purpose. He wasn't just another player anymore. He'd become the face of this rebellion that was shaking up the whole sport. But here's where this gets really interesting. Every rebellion needs something big to go after. And in golf, that target is the Ryder Cup. For decades, the Ryder Cup has been way more than just a tournament. It's like a sacred ritual where national pride beats money or fame every time. It's about the flag on your shirt, not the name on your bag. It's about history, passion, and moments that stick with you forever. The players who make Team USA walk in there like warriors. And protecting the door to this sacred stage stood the newly named captain for the 2025 showdown at Bethpage Black, Keegan Bradley. Bradley is basically the complete opposite of what you think of when you picture a LIV player. He's built from pure New England grit, a competitor whose emotions explode with every swing and every roar, making him a fan favorite without even trying. His whole identity is tied to PGA Tour tradition, and picking him felt like sending a message, a loud one. It said we're going back to old school values, the kind of team built on loyalty to the tour, not fast money or flashy moves. Now here's where everything was about to explode. The stage was perfectly set. On one side stood Bryson DeChambeau, moving like a charged-up revolutionary. On the other sat the untouchable institution of the Ryder Cup, now led by a captain who lived and breathed old-school values. All this explosive setup needed was someone to light the fuse. And Bryson, being Bryson, stepped forward to ignite the entire situation without any hesitation. Here's the crazy part. The trigger wasn't some leaked document or backdoor conspiracy. It was a completely public declaration delivered with the calm confidence of someone who genuinely believes history will prove him right. The conversation started simple, about team spots, and whether his LEV teammates deserved a chance. But then he focused on one specific name, turning a casual comment into a full-blown statement that hit the sport like a sledgehammer. Taylor Gooch, the 2023 LEV Golf Individual Champion, wasn't just winning tournaments. He was dominating leaderboards like a man possessed. Week after week he displayed the kind of consistent lethal form that proved he was one of the hottest players on earth, regardless of which tour logo appeared next to his name. When Bryson talked about it, there wasn't even a hint of doubt in his voice. He broke down his case with the cold precision of someone dropping facts that couldn't be argued with, like a prosecutor presenting evidence nobody could dispute. He said flat out that Gooch should be at the top of the captain's pick list. No question about it. But wait, this is where Bryson went nuclear. Bryson didn't stop there. He took a direct swing at the entire power structure, targeting the heart of the system, the official world golf ranking. This was Bryson launching a full-scale attack. No sugarcoating. He stared straight into the camera and challenged the very foundation golf has depended on for decades, the ranking system that determines who the world's best players really are, calling it biased, saying it wasn't fair, and you could hear the anger behind every word. These weren't gentle criticisms. These were direct attacks on the establishment's core. And when he came back to Taylor Gooch, Bryson's tone closed the door on any argument. He said, he's one of the best players in the world. He's proven it over and over again. He's shown what he can do. He won the LEV Golf Championship last year. Having a world ranking system that excludes him for not playing on a tour he's banned from is totally unfair. It's wrong. That landed like a direct hit on the entire system, and honestly, it made the whole sport stop and really absorb what just happened. This was the core of the entire conflict laid out in the open. Bryson used his teammates' success like a spotlight, exposing what he and many others believe is a serious flaw, maybe even an injustice built into the system. In his view, the setup was punishing a player for succeeding in a league that the same system refuses to recognize. Taylor Gooch was basically caught in the middle of a political war, trapped by rules he had no control over. His world ranking, the exact credential he needed for automatic Ryder Cup qualification, tanked not because he stopped playing well, but because his league wasn't approved by the official power brokers. And then the shockwaves hit like nothing golf had ever seen. A real earthquake isn't measured by the first tremor, it's the aftershocks that reshape everything. And Bryson DeChambeau's statement sent those aftershocks ripping through golf with incredible force. The impact hit fast, loud, and divided the entire sport right down the middle. The cracks that had been hidden beneath the surface ever since that so-called framework agreement suddenly split wide open, exposed under harsh lights for everyone to see. On one side, a wave of support came pouring in from parts of the media and a huge chunk of the fan base. They saw the clear, obvious logic in what Bryson was saying. How could anyone justify ignoring the defending champion of a league filled with some of the world's strongest players? Their message was simple and clear. Sports should be based on merit. Period. The best should compete against the best. Leaving out a player with Gooch's talent, no matter which tour he plays on, felt like weakening the entire competition. To them, it looked like the system was choosing politics, pride, and old grudges over pure performance and winning. This side believed the Ryder Cup was supposed to showcase America's top golf talent, not become a loyalty test for the PGA Tour. In their eyes, the OWGR refusing to award points to LEV events was purely political, a sneaky way to freeze out the competition by keeping their players stuck with rankings too low for majors or team events. But here's where the counterattack got absolutely vicious. On the other side of that divide, the backlash hit just as hard. Traditionalists and PGA loyalists came out firing, attacking Bryson's position as phony and selfish. They didn't see a hero. They saw someone trying to change the rules after cashing out. Their message hit like a whip. You made your choice, now deal with it. When DeChambeau, Gooch, and the rest signed those massive LEV contracts worth hundreds of millions, they knew exactly what they were giving up. They knew the PGA Tour had already banned them. They knew OWGR points weren't guaranteed. And they knew chasing life-changing money might cost them their Ryder Cup dreams. So when they turned around and started complaining the situation was unfair, critics saw it as pure entitlement, demanding a spot in the same institutions they abandoned. To that crowd, it felt like classic wanting it both ways behavior. Their anger came from a deep sense of betrayal. Like the players who left had turned their backs on the same system that built them up. In their eyes, the Ryder Cup was forged by the PGA Tour's weekly grind. The travel, the pressure, the commitments, the history. Letting players who stepped away from that world waltz back in for the spotlight felt like disrespecting the spirit of the entire event. And that's when things got really ugly online. The online forums and social media turned into complete digital battlefields, with people launching opinions like weapons in every direction. Every comment from a former pro, every tweet from a golf analyst just cranked the tension higher. Nobody was having calm discussions about a possible merger anymore. They were screaming about principles, fairness, and what real competition should look like. Bryson's words didn't just start a debate, they triggered a full-blown civil war in the sport. And while the public fought loud and messy, something quieter started happening behind the scenes. This was the institutional pushback, the kind that doesn't yell but still hits hard, the kind that comes from the same establishment Bryson publicly challenged. And the biggest response wasn't even a statement, it was an action that spoke way louder than any press release could. The appointment of Keegan Bradley as the 2025 U.S. Ryder Cup captain seemed like a straightforward success on the surface. Fans loved it. Bradley's a major champion, a fierce competitor, and his Ryder Cup passion shows on his face every time he steps into that arena. But when you look deeper, his selection felt like a loud message, louder than any official statement the PGA could release. Keegan Bradley is pure PGA Tour DNA, the kind of guy who stayed loyal when chaos hit. He turned down the massive offers, stood firm with the tour that built him, and never hid his doubts about the Levy model, questioning its format and what kind of legacy it could leave. Now watch what happened when everyone waited for Bradley's response. So by choosing Bradley, the people running the show weren't just picking a captain, they were sending a crystal clear signal about where their loyalty lies. They were delivering a message nobody could miss. The road to the Ryder Cup still runs straight through the heart of the PGA Tour. Now Captain Bradley was stuck in an impossible position, dropped right into the middle of a storm he never created. Everyone waited to see how he'd respond to Bryson's loud public push for Taylor Gooch, but the captain didn't say a word. All he offered was silence, a calm, calculated silence that spoke louder than any interview could. He didn't engage, didn't argue, didn't address Bryson's points, didn't even acknowledge the chaos swirling around him. And in that quiet, the message came through clear. The establishment wasn't getting into a public fight with the rebels. They weren't going to give the argument credibility by fighting on Bryson's terms. As far as they were concerned, the system, the rules, the criteria, all of that remained exactly as written. They were what they were, and that was the point. The message from the captain's chair was crystal clear. It was on the LEV players to prove they deserved a spot, not on the system to bend just because they wanted back in. But here's the question that's tearing golf apart. Beyond the headlines, past the online chaos, and deeper than all the strategy talk sits the real messy truth nobody wants to face. Bryson DeChambeau's announcement forced the entire golf world to look straight in the mirror and confront a question it's been avoiding for years. What is the Ryder Cup actually for? Is it supposed to be the ultimate reward for loyalty to one specific tour? A trophy that exists inside the PGA Tour's universe, meant to keep players committed to its grind and system? Or is the Ryder Cup something different? A pure battle where nothing matters except sending the 12 strongest American players into war, no matter where they earn their money or who signs their paychecks? Is the mission loyalty or winning that iconic trophy at all costs? There's no clean or comfortable answer here. This is the messy philosophical trap Bryson's move dragged the whole sport into. The pro-Lev side hits you with simple, almost irresistible logic. At the highest level, sports should be about finding the real champions. And if Taylor Gooch and Bryson are playing well enough to rank among the top 12 American players right now, how do you justify shutting them out? Leaving them off the team, they argue, proves the Ryder Cup isn't truly the best versus the best anymore. It becomes the most loyal versus the most loyal. At that point, it stops being a pure fight and starts looking like an exhibition dressed up as a war. But wait until you hear the other side's argument. The counter-argument carries its own emotional weight, because the Ryder Cup's magic isn't just in the shots, it's in the story behind them. It's built on the shared grind, the week-to-week pressure of battling through the same PGA Tour events, earning points the same way, under the same lights, against the same fields. That creates a bond, a built-in chemistry you can't just manufacture overnight. Those players have lived the same journey, felt the same stress, and pushed through the same walls together. And the Ryder Cup is the peak of that shared experience. Dropping in players who stepped out of that world to compete in a separate, isolated league could shake the whole team chemistry and maybe even break it. It brings unknown energy, real potential for friction, and nobody wants that when the pressure reaches its highest level. Is that risk really worth it? And on top of that, is it fair to the players who stayed loyal to the tour? The ones who grinded all season and barely missed automatic qualification, losing their spot to someone who cashed out and walked away? Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to admit. This is the messy reality nobody likes saying out loud. Both sides actually make sense. There's a strong argument for pure merit-based selection, and an equally strong argument for the invisible power of loyalty, shared struggle, and sticking with your team. Bryson DeChambeau didn't create this mess by defending Taylor Gooch. He just ripped the bandage clean off and forced everyone to look at the wound hiding under the framework agreement. He exposed that the sport's problems run way deeper than money, contracts, or business models. The truth is, this split didn't start with Bryson. It's been festering under the surface for years, waiting for somebody bold enough to drag it into the light. The framework agreement was sold as a peace treaty, a way to end the chaos and bring golf back together. But all it really did was freeze the war in place without fixing anything. Everyone shook hands for the cameras, but behind closed doors, nothing was resolved and nobody trusted anybody. And now the sport is paying the price for that fake unity. The Ryder Cup became the battleground where all those unresolved tensions finally exploded, spilling into the public like a storm people pretended wouldn't come. And now the pressure is about to crush everyone involved. As the noise kept building, something even heavier started making itself felt. The pressure sitting on the shoulders of the decision-makers behind the scenes. PGA Tour officials, Ryder Cup executives, and even players on the committee were stuck in a brutal position. They knew whatever choice they made would anger half the sport and be celebrated by the other half, with no middle ground left to stand on. If they opened the door to 11 players, they'd be accused of betraying loyalty and rewarding the ones who left. If they kept the door shut, they'd be accused of sabotaging team strength and hiding behind politics instead of chasing victory. Every option came with a cost, and the people in charge could feel the weight of history breathing down their necks. The Ryder Cup wasn't just another event anymore. It had become the ultimate test of what modern golf actually stands for. And as all these arguments clashed, one brutal reality started taking shape. No matter which path the Ryder Cup chooses, the sport of golf will never look the same afterward. The divide between tours has grown so deep that even the biggest trophy in team golf can't escape it. Fans are arguing, players are choosing sides, legends are weighing in, and the pressure for a definitive answer is reaching a breaking point. But here's what this all means for one man's legacy. These questions cut deeper than simple sports talk. They go right to what we believe real competition should stand for. And now that the first shockwaves have started to settle, the ground left behind looks completely different, with one man's legacy hanging in the air like a verdict waiting to drop. What does this calculated explosive move actually mean for Bryson DeChambeau? Is he a visionary? A fighter pushing back against a system he sees as outdated and unfair, trying to drag the sport into a new era? Or is he the ultimate disruptor? A brilliant but reckless force tearing down the very institutions he once tried to master. His transformation from misunderstood outsider to polarizing lightning rod might be one of the wildest storylines in modern sports. He used to be the kid obsessed with science and protein shakes, the one who pushed people away with his tunnel vision intensity. Then he morphed into the muscle-packed powerhouse, who demolished Winged Foot and captured a US Open. And now he's transformed again, stepping up as the loud, confident, media-savvy captain and spokesperson of the entire LEV rebellion. In this latest version of his story, he's fully embraced his identity as golf's most polarizing figure. There's no neutral take on Bryson anymore. You either see him as a hero or paint him as the villain. Nothing in between. And this is where everything comes down to one final gamble. In this Ryder Cup gamble he's making, the stakes couldn't be higher. If he pulls it off, if he forces a change in the selection rules or gets Taylor Gooch, or even himself, onto that roster, he'll go down as the revolutionary who stood up to the system and actually won. He'll be seen as the one who made sure the Ryder Cup truly showcased the absolute best players American golf has to offer. But if he fails, if the system refuses to budge and the LEV stars stay stuck on the outside looking in, his legacy becomes way more complicated. History will paint him as the guy who chose a path that pulled him away from the stages where legends carved their names forever. And the Ryder Cup, with all its chaos and emotion, is now trapped in the middle of this bigger fight. It's always been a pressure cooker, a place where the most intense feelings in sports come alive, but now it's become a piece in a much bigger, uglier political game. The 2025 showdown at Bethpage Black, with that intense, fiery New York crowd, was always going to be explosive. But now it's shaping up to be a straight-up referendum on what modern golf is becoming. If you love the untold stories and drama in golf, make sure you subscribe to Golf Mode TV channel. We've got the inside scoop every week. Every captain's pick Keegan Bradley makes is now going to be judged through the filter of this full-blown civil war. Every cheer, every boo from the crowd is going to carry extra weight. Like every reaction is choosing a side. And here's the truth that changes everything. Bryson DeChambeau's announcement didn't shake the sport because it was brand new. It shook the sport because it exposed the truth a lot of people were pretending not to see. The war for the soul of golf is still raging louder than ever. The battle lines are drawn. The players are standing firm. And the entire world is sitting back waiting to see who cracks first. And now the real question isn't just who makes the 2025 squad. It's what that team will even stand for when they step onto that first tee with millions watching.